I can't even see the bottom. I don't like Conrad either, but it made me despise Jeremiah. Tupac? I read both of these in 5 days. I was reading about this cute little Canadian small town and I was loving it. Personality of a sheet of A4 paper. And I fully intend to read every other book and be just as hurt. I heard it from this man's mouth and love it. They don't actually exist. This is my first impression of you, keep in mind. Hello guys and welcome back. Welcome to the May and June reading wrap up. There were a lot of books in May and June, specifically in May, but also not too bad in June. As you can tell from all the tabs happening here, I enjoyed a lot of these books, so I'm really excited to talk about them. But we have to rewind to beginning of May. April was a really dry reading month for me, so rolling into May, I was not expecting a lot for myself, really at all. Maybe I should have, because May was my most productive or efficient reading month so far. I really got into using audiobook, but I also had a lot of good reads in May. I also had some that were just straight awful. I had some really good ones. Then June was nothing but great. So let's start here. I have not posted in quite some time. I appreciate your patience. Back in April, I read the first book in the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy, and it wasn't very good. I rated that one at 3 stars. We unfortunately kind of continued down a very rough path. I read both the second and third summer. I don't want to start with a bad book. Can I not start with a bad book for once? Switching gears. I wanted to read something really good. After some of the really bad books that I read in April, I decided to reread This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. If you've never read this book, you should absolutely read this book. It takes place on Prince Edward Island, and you're following Lucy as she goes to her best friend's house because she gets basically an SOS call the week of her best friend's wedding saying like, I met Prince Edward, I needed to get away, everything's changing, I don't know how to deal with any of this. And Lucy's like, girl, what? Are you, like, what is going on? Obviously, she drops everything to be there with Bestie. The trouble is best friend's little brother, who's had a very tense relationship with Lucy over the past several summers. Bottom line, they can't stay away from each other. The other bottom line is that Bridget, best friend, specifically told Lucy to stay away from little brother. It's their story of trying to stay away from each other and doing just an absolutely terrible job. This book will have you feeling, oh, so sad. So many emotions, honestly. I have goosebumps. This book will have you feeling every emotion possible. You will feel so giggly and excited, but also heart-achingly sad. It's so fun. It's a short book and the pacing is perfect and the story is perfect. I read it so quickly when I read it the second time at the beginning of May. I've since passed it off to my book club and half of them have read it and they've all loved it. And so I think you should read it. It was a 5-star the first time I read it and a 5-star the second time I read it. And I don't think it will ever change. Loved that one so much. Now I have to get a bad book out of the way. And I hate to be this guy, but I can't. If you'll remember, in April, I read the first book in The Summer I Turned Pretty. If you haven't seen my March-April wrap-up, go watch that and you'll see my response to the first book in The Summer I Turned Pretty. Point blank period, it's just not good. I changed my rating from a 2-star to a 3-star because my author friend gave me some perspective on how the author was really good at writing in the voice of a 16-year-old. I don't think I should have done that. I don't think it deserved that, to be frank. And I say that now with the completed series knowledge in my brain. The second book is basically just Belly figuring out how to navigate her relationship with these two boys now that their mother is no longer in the picture. Nothing about this story stuck out to me. Absolutely nothing. It was just kind of to progress the timeline along. I think I rated this a 2-star, and that may have been generous. And then you go to the third book, and in the third book, Belly is in college. It's her first year of college, and she starts the book with this like more mature voice, and you think like, oh, she's finally grown up. We're finally gonna see this new side of her. She's gonna have some solid character development here. No, not at all, actually. Nowhere to be found. Insufferable. Actually, it was so bad. And the plot of the third book is so... oh, it's very Little Mermaid in that it's that one line, that you on land, they understand that you don't reprimand their daughters. Like, no, babe. It's very Little Mermaid coded in that Ariel thinks she knows what's good for her and thinks she knows everything, and she absolutely doesn't. And in fact, she is directly walking into something that is not good for her. Made me despise Jeremiah, which he was fine before. I don't like Conrad either, but it made me despise Jeremiah. Yeah, you'll read it, you'll find out. And Belly, where you thought that she had done all this maturing in the beginning of the book, steep decline. super fast, and she is in fact the same girl she has been since she was 15, 16 when you met her. Actually horrifically bad. 1 star. 1 star. I will never ever read them again. It was actually awful. We kind of got a 2 for 1. 2 stars on the second book because I don't know if I'm still being generous. I don't know if the plot was okay. I genuinely don't remember what happened in that book. A single star for the third book. At least it was memorable, but in a very derogatory way. Next, let's see. Let me look at my Goodreads to figure out the order of which I read these things. Ah, yes. Moving into at least better territory. It's short-lived, don't worry. Moving into better territory, I read Funny Story by Emily Henry. I was really underwhelmed by this book. I've found that this is very divisive. I find that most people, from my limited experience with my reader friends, I found that you either really like Happy Place or you really like Funny Story. And I am not one of the girls that really likes Funny Story, but I love Happy Place. It hurt me in the best way possible. It was 5 stars. I probably will read it again on my upcoming vacation to Florida. I can't live without it. Happy Place has my heart. Funny Story, not as much. I rated this 3.75 stars. And that's not to say that it was bad. Like, the story was fine. It's Emily Henry's writing, so we know it's good. I felt that it was just okay. Miles and Daphne both recently got broken up with, and their exes left them, respectively, to be with each other. Daphne was engaged to this man. They were really close to the wedding. They were prepping for everything. Miles had just been dating his girlfriend. So when they both got broken up with, they lived like down the road from each other, or at least I'm remembering it that way. Daphne ends up moving in with Miles because she has nowhere else to go. Very shortly in the story, Daphne gets a call from her ex-fiance. Burst of wild determination to prove that she's okay, tells him that she has a boyfriend. I don't remember if she says outright that it's Miles. The long and the short of it is that Miles and Daphne end up fake dating and taking a bunch of pictures to post online to perpetuate this narrative that they are now together. They end up actually falling for each other. There was one scene in this book that I found to be really noticeable, and it was really more towards the beginning of the story. This book felt like therapy for the characters in a very show you, not tell you kind of way. I remember at the end of a couple of chapters, Daphne would be like, maybe it doesn't have to be this way. Maybe I can just blah, blah, blah. And it was like this very healing statement. And I love that for her, but that's not development. It just kind of like at the end of those chapters just felt like she was okay now. It just wasn't very realistic or relatable to me. And although the characters were just fine, I didn't love them. I wasn't attached to any of them really. So where the story wasn't bad, it just also wasn't all that good for me. 3.75 stars for Funny Story. Just also not my favorite. I feel like that's too high. Honestly, I am always changing my ratings in these videos. I don't know why I think what I walk into these videos with is gonna stay the same, but I'm always changing my ratings. 3.5. Final answer 3.5. That feels better. 3.5. It's a 2.5. 3.25. 3.25 is my final answer. A 3 star is like, it's still a good story. It just wasn't for me. Where am I going? Where are we putting this? Next, I was influenced to read the Twisted series by Anna Huang. I have not yet finished it, but I started with Twisted Love, naturally, which is Ava and Alex Volkov's book. This book was bad. This book was bad. There's not much more to say about it. Your 2 main characters are Ava Chen and Alex Volkov. Ava's older brother is going off on like a medical fellowship overseas, so he says, Alex, my best friend, you owe me one. Watch over my sister. Live in my house and watch over my sister. And of course his house is like 2 doors down, if that, from Ava's place. Alex becomes this kind of big looming bodyguard kind of figure to Ava. They get closer over time. I just like don't even know what to say about this book. Oh, that's right. So this book, it was interesting. I just don't think it was executed very well. Ava deals with these nightmares from this traumatic childhood event. Alex has this kind of haunting, looming past. It kind of drives everything he does. These characters definitely just kind of trauma bonded. It was really weird. Alex's character was not that likable. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks that, but he was just like really personality of a sheet of A4 paper. Like, he was boring. His whole bit was tall, dark, and handsome, and without that he has basically nothing. He's this cold-hearted businessman that will do whatever it takes to stay the top businessman in his industry / the world. And because of that, of course, he has like all the money and all the power, and he can do whatever he needs to do. Ava is just kind of this soft, delicate, free spirit. They bond because of her trauma, and then he shares his trauma, and his trauma is the driving force behind all of his business success. And then there's more familial betrayal. There's a kidnapping scene. It just felt like super disjointed. Did not make a lot of sense to me at all. Plot continuity was not really there. It was more like, this is act 1, this is act 2, this is act 3. Not good writing. Very much telling, not showing. I know that sounds so simple and elementary, but that's because it is. Like, that is the only way I know how to describe it, because I am not an author. But I did in fact take English courses. Show me, don't tell me what's going on. There also was just a lot of gratuitous spice in this book, which is followed up by the second book that I have not yet finished, but it's just like too much. One of Alex's arcs is that he becomes softer, more soft-hearted, more like soft towards Ava, whatever. Chapter 2, you get introduced to him as like, this is the certain way that I like to have sex. And it's like, this is my first impression of you, keep in mind. Girl, excuse me, take a breath. And it stayed a lot in a very negative way. All that to say, this is a 1.5 star. I tried to start Twisted Games immediately after. I'm still 80% of the way through it. I haven't finished it because it's very similar and it's not good either. Lack of plot continuity, lack of character development. They're all just really, really flat. Next, we had one of the best books I've read all year. By far, this redeemed all the bad books I've read in the past 2 months. It just kind of wiped them from my brain, and that was Wayward by Amelia Hart. This book was recommended to me by my aunt. Just the fact that it was recommended to me by a strong woman in my life emphasizes how much this book is for the strong women. It was incredible. You get multiple timelines in Wayward, following 3 women across 3 different time periods, and all these women are from the Wayward line. They're all in the same family, and your time periods are 1619, 1942, and 2019. So they're all really different, but these women go through very similar struggles, and you see them overcome things in a very similar fashion. And it all comes down to remembering who you are and kind of coming into your own through that, with the encouragement of all the women that came before you. This was such an incredible read. It's naturey, it's witchy, it takes place in England, which was so beautiful to read about because I'm unfamiliar with the UK as a whole, really. All of these women are so strong, and they doubt themselves at times, and then they find encouragement from these women that came before them, or they find the strength to move on even with as hard as it is, or they find strength from the women around them, though they may have been estranged at one time. It's just so heartfelt and heartachingly beautiful. I highly recommend everybody read this. This was 5 stars, easy. I am so grateful to have read this and to have had this recommended to me. The writing was beautiful, the pacing was fantastic. You have alternating timelines so that you're getting a little bit of each story. I listened to the audiobook of this, and there were 3 different voice actors for all 3 different women, and that made it a lot easier to follow along with, but it also brought them to life so much more. This is quite literally one of the best books I've read all year, and I would highly recommend it for anybody who wants something a little bit fantastical, a bit magical, but still very real and very raw and very emotionally tender. I don't have enough good things to say about this book. It hits you deep and it stays with you. I will likely reread this in the fall because I feel that that vibe would suit it very well, even though you follow a range of seasons through the book. So incredible. I need a bevy break. I need to breathe a little bit. This is the Grasshopper from Dutch Bros. It's mint and chocolate, I think. It's good. Okay, starting from the top of the next book. I was influenced by, oh look, she's right here. I was watching an Alexa Ray video. I think it was her moving vlog. In that video, she's reading The Rose Bargain, and she loved it so much, I decided that I had to read it too. The Rose Bargain is set in England in the 1400s. You learn this story of 2 kings on a battlefield fighting to be the sovereign of England. During their war, a portal opened up and this fairy queen walked through, and she talked to one of the kings and said, if you make a deal with me, I will let you be king for a lifetime. And he made this deal. They win the war, and she kills him. So he was in fact king for a lifetime. It just was a little short-lived. And so she takes over rule of England. So you have this immortal fairy queen who's decidedly pretty freaky, pretty weird, and she's been ruling for a very long time. Enter onto the scene Ivy. Ivy is getting ready to enter her debutante season after her sister Lydia really fumbled hers. Fumbled so much, in fact, that she is kind of disgraced by society. Their family's been outcasted, and Lydia has no memories of what happened. And the deal with debutante seasons in this book is that when you are ready to enter into society, you have the opportunity to make a deal with the fairy queen. And a lot of the time this ends up being very superficial. Give up, I don't know, the first digit of your pinky for a perfect face or straight teeth or the perfect laugh. You get something, but you definitely have to give something too. Super weird stuff like that. Ivy is entering into the season after Lydia. She doesn't remember the deal that she made. There's a caveat to this season, which is that the queen's son, Prince Brom, is entering into society and looking for a wife immediately. So they sign this contract to either be considered by Brom or never look for a husband again. And then the queen is like, well, there's too many of you, so we're gonna narrow it down. And it comes down to this small group of girls. And you're following this group of girls through the season while all of this crazy, crazy stuff is going on. The queen is making them go through these different trials and tests and lessons to be a better suit for Prince Brom. And it gets increasingly more strange and gothic. And then there's this huge twist at the end that I did not see coming. I wasn't super in love with it. I was a little underwhelmed, but I think I went in with really high expectations because of how much Alexa loved it. But it was really good. I can still see all the scenes vividly in my head from these strange lessons, and I still feel for these girls and all that they go through. You grow to love these girls so much, and you admire their strength, fortitude, and their courage. You also get to know Prince Emmett, who is the human brother of Prince Brom. There's a whole caveat as to how he's prince and everything, but these characters are so lovable. And I truly believe that if you read this book, you will enjoy it. I rated this book 3.75 stars, which is pretty good. Like, I really did enjoy the story. I was just underwhelmed by it because my expectations were so high. There will be a second book coming out, expected to release in 2026, which will give us a lot of pivotal knowledge about the universe. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. Do y'all have an album that you've been listening to? Mine was Void 2.5.2 Part 2. It just got released last night. It's really good, and in my opinion, Part 2 is better than Part 1. Those are my thoughts. Continuing on, I don't know what put me in the mood to read this, but I really just had the urge. This is a book that I had not read since grade school, and that is The Giver by Lewis Lowry. I read this, I think, in the 5th grade. It's a really small book. I'm pretty sure I read this in a day. It's heavy. Even though it's small, it is really heavy. Having read through it a second time, I still don't understand the message at the end of this book, but I do understand the message of the whole of the society. The Giver focuses on Jonas, who lives in this basically perfect society. Everything that you do is dictated by the society and what it needs. The society is run by very strict rules, which include precision of your words, pills you take every morning. Everything is very just so, and nobody questions it. At the ceremony of 12, everybody gets their life assignments. You get called up on stage and you're told that you will be the director of recreation, or that you will take care of the elderly, or that you will be a birth mother. Jonas is told that he will be the newest receiver of memory. That is a title that is very, very rare. And the air in the auditorium is kind of ominous, hopeful, but also scared. And you learn the receiver of memory holds all of the memories for the collective community. Like, all of them. Everybody else has no memories of what came before the community. They just know the community, and that is it. So Jonas starts having his training with the Giver, and the Giver gives these memories of life outside the society to Jonas. It's about Jonas's journey, understanding that life in the community is not all that it's cracked up to be, and maybe it's not right that we're not told to ask questions. Maybe it's not right that we're told to live a specific way. And it's all about questioning what is. This is the type of book that makes you think. This is the type of book you write a book report for. It's simple but incredibly effective at making you question your day-to-day life and the rules of society. It's debatably a commentary. Debatably, it's a commentary on a lot of different facets of society. I feel like I should be able to say more about this because it's such a prolific title in education, but I feel that the weight of it really is in the experience of reading it for the first time. So I recommend that you read it. This was a 4-star read for me. It didn't make me think so much that I felt very philosophically transformed, but it did make me ask questions. And because of that, I really admire this book. After The Giver, which was fairly weighty in its own right, I was tricked. I was bamboozled. And I got tricked into reading a hockey romance. The first hockey romance, in fact, that I have ever read. It's not really about the hockey at the end of the day. No, it's not. The book in question is Mile High by Liz Tomford. This is the first book in the Windy City series, and it is a hockey romance. I did not know it was a hockey romance walking into it, but I also didn't mind that it was a hockey romance by the end of it. Kind of like by the middle of it, because it wasn't all about the hockey. Mile High focuses on Stevie and Xanders. Stevie is a flight attendant who flies on the private plane for the NHL team, the Chicago Raptors. They don't actually exist. Chicago's team is the Blackhawks. But Stevie has lived in the shadow of her brother's basketball career for basically her whole life. Her brother, Ryan Shea, is kind of the biggest, baddest point guard in the league at the moment. And so she doesn't have a lot of people in her life that aren't trying to get to her brother and use her as a stepping stone for that. So she tries to keep it under wraps. She's working with the Raptors. She meets a friend along the way, but she also meets Xanders along the way. And Xanders is the co-captain of the Raptors, and he's one of the best players in the game. But he also has this prolific playboy persona about him that you learn pretty early on is an image that they perpetuate to kind of contrast him and his co-captain, Madison. Madison is this perpetual golden boy. He has his wife, he has some kids, whereas Xanders is this forever bachelor, bad boy persona. Xanders is under this impression from his manager that this is the persona that we have to keep playing because that's what makes you money, blah, 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 blah. Well, Stevie meets Xanders, Xanders meets Stevie, and they just keep having different run-ins throughout the season because obviously any road game they have, they're on the same plane. Xanders is used to having everybody listen to him and kind of like fall at his feet. Not only that, but throw themselves at his feet. And Stevie doesn't. Xanders will say something and Stevie gives it right back. She's sassy, she's a strong woman, and he's like, you're a challenge, and I need to win this challenge. So naturally he starts teasing Stevie and they start talking more, and it's their love story throughout the season. Not only that, but there is significant character development in these books. And the biggest thing that I admire, Xanders, Evan Xanders, the man is in therapy before the woman. I feel like so many of these books, the man ends up in therapy to become a better person for the girl after they've been seeing each other for a while. Totally fine, totally valid. Evan's been in therapy for years before even meeting Stevie. So you know that he's already working on himself, and you continue to see that development throughout the rest of the book. You also see growth from Stevie's perspective in that she's learning to trust people and believe that they're not just trying to use her to get to her brother. Their story is very sweet. I think part of the reason I enjoyed this book so much is because these characters are so completely in their own lives before they meet each other. It's not like their entire development hinges on them knowing each other. So it was a good book and I enjoyed it. I gave this book 4 stars. For my first run at sports romance, really wasn't that bad. It was actually quite good. They were people that I genuinely cared about and I wanted to learn more about their story. I will be reading the rest of the Windy City series. You get introduced to the characters that the other books will be about. In the first book, you're introduced to Ryan Shea, Stevie Shea's brother, and the second book is about Ryan, also Indy, who is Stevie's best friend. Well, and then in the second book, you get introduced to Kai, who is the main character in the third book. So it's really fun just to see like, oh, that's who it's gonna be about next, yay. I'm really excited to read the rest of them. I can't say I'm a huge sports girl, because I'm not, but it is fun to have this little peek into the sporting world with these teams that don't actually exist. Next, I read, also debatably, one of the best books I've read all year, and that is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Everybody talks about this book. Yes, you should read it. I learned recently that this is the third book in the Part of Your World interconnected standalone series. I didn't know that, but I don't mind. I feel like it doesn't hold a lot of bearing on this book. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. This book is very much a complete story in and of itself, but I do feel that the other books will add to this story once I've read them. Just for the Summer is about Emma and Justin, who both share this curse where they'll date somebody for a couple of months, break up with them, and then that person goes on to find their soulmate, where they're just kind of stuck there alone again. So after finding Justin through a Reddit post of all things, they decide that they're going to try out dating each other. Via the rules of the curse, they, when they break up, should therefore go on to find their soulmates. It's a simple, sweet book about either I need to pull out the mic or I need to film the rest of this later. Okay, there is now a mic involved. We're doing bathroom renovations and the bathroom is directly across the hall. So if you hear noises, I'm really sorry. I can't avoid it. I'm also holding the mic in my hand. So if you see her, yes, in fact you do. That's fine. Going back to one of the best books I've read all year. And yes, I've said that about 2 books so far. It was a strong couple of months, what can I say? This story is so incredible, and it's because these 2 people are so fully themselves before they meet each other. Emma is a travel nurse who is dealing with her narcissistic, neglectful mother, not on the daily, but occasionally, and occasionally is hurtful enough. Justin is having to take care of his siblings because his mother is going away for some time, and you don't figure out why for most of the book. There are some very real mental health struggles in this book that are portrayed with so much accuracy. Not only that, but grace. And these 2 characters are living so much of their own lives while also fake dating, which, if you know me at all, you know that I love fake dating, okay? I just love it. But they're living so much life while also trying to make sure that they fulfill the parameters of this curse that they deal with, while also catching very real feelings for each other. Emma and her best friend are staying at an Airbnb on a lake behind a very rich house. Justin is not too far away from them. You get to love all of these characters so much, and it's so good. This book, this physical book right here, has never been read. Never been read. I loved this book so much that I went out immediately after I finished the audiobook and bought the physical book because I fully intend to read this book and tab it up at some point. I have never loved a book that much. Even with Wayward, I loved Wayward, and I didn't run out to buy that book. Not the clock too. We're just descending a little bit more into chaos the further we get with this footage. We're gonna have fun. In my opinion, this is what Funny Story wanted to be, and I feel terrible for saying that because I'm pretty sure the review on the front of the book is Emily Henry. I feel bad for saying that, but like, this, in my opinion, is what Funny Story wanted to be. This is also therapy for the characters, absolutely, but in a fashion that actually makes sense. Like, Emma is in denial that she's dealing with a bunch of these hard things. Justin is very conscious that he's going to have to be mindful about changing his mindset if he wants to approach the people in his life with more grace and love. It's just so much more honest and relatable and realistic than Funny Story was for me, and I loved it so much for that reason, and I have every intention of reading more from Abby Jimenez. This was an immediate 5-star. Obviously, this is the perfect vacation read. If you haven't read it already, it's time that you do. Even better if you're reading it on the beach or next to a large body of water or in the sun in general. This will heal a little part of you that you didn't know was broken. This is a very, very good book, and I do think that you should read it. Prioritize this one. After Just for the Summer, which is heart-wrenching in its own way, we jumped to Straight Depression. Easily one of the most hurtful books I've ever read, and I fully intend to read every other book and be just as hurt and love it. These books will damage you irreparably, and you will say thank you. This book, I fear, I'm not even through all of them because it's a series. I'm not even through all of them, and I fear that I will always be hung up on these books. I will still be at the restaurant. I do not think I will ever leave. Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh, the first book in the Boys of Tommen series. I watched this ruin some people that I follow online, and I decided it was in fact time for me to understand what was going on. I don't know why, if I see people just being absolutely demolished, like fully will never recover, sobbing on the internet kind of demolished, I decide that then I have to experience that. In my brain, I'm like, oh, that's a good book, I should read that book. I don't know why, but if I see you crying over a book, I will likely decide that I should read that book. Because if you're crying over it, it has to be good. It was the case with this one. Binding 13 is about Johnny Kavanagh and Shannon Lynch. Shannon Lynch comes from a very abusive home life, and she is transferring from her old school to Tommen because she was being so heavily bullied at her last school. Like, it was aggressive and it was bad. On her first real day at Tommen, she is accidentally hit in the head with a rugby ball that was kicked by one Johnny Kavanagh. And Johnny Kavanagh is kind of everybody's favorite. He's a celebrity at Tommen College. He's slated to be playing for the national rugby teams right out of high school. Obviously, he knocks this girl out, and it runs to her aid, is trying to make sure that she's okay, takes her to the office and starts talking with her, just tries to keep her conscious because it's kind of obvious that she's concussed and you don't want someone with a concussion falling asleep. And he notices as they're sitting there that she has these different bruises on her. Obviously he's a little bit concerned because people don't just have bruises on them. It's not just a thing that happens. Her mom comes storming and tells Johnny to never see Shannon again. And it's the story of them definitely seeing each other again. Although this is technically a book that involves high school rugby, it is very much not about high school rugby. It is about the relationship between these characters. I feel like I know these characters. I see Johnny's house, I see Shannon's house, I see Shannon's siblings. I feel this book in my soul. It's very Irish. There's lots of slang, so much so that there's a glossary at the front so that you don't get lost while trying to understand what they're saying. This is so raw and so real because these are things that happen. Like, not everything is so perfect as they have a curse that they need to break, so they're gonna fake date until they fall in love on accident when they're supposed to break up, you know? Like, this is real. Like, she's being abused and he is this big local celebrity basically that shouldn't have anything to do with her but can't stay away from her. Not only that, but he has this injury that he won't allow to heal because his entire future hinges on rugby, and if he stops playing rugby to let his injury heal, he's not going to get the career he wants in rugby. It's messy and it's beautiful and I loved it. You also get introduced to the other characters that have books later in the series. First two books focus on Johnny and Shannon, obviously. The next two books focus on Joey, Shannon's brother. And then you get a book on Claire and Gibbsy. Claire is Shannon's best friend. Gibbsy is one of Johnny's friends. And then I believe after that is Releasing 10, which is about Lizzie and Huey. I don't know a lot about them, but that was the book that I saw that was absolutely ruining people. It just came out like a month or two ago and it's wrecking people. So obviously I have to know. Yeah, this book is hurtful in the best way possible. You definitely need to check your trigger warnings before reading this. I love this book, both all my heart. So many tabs. Do you see this? So many tabs in this book. I want to share a quote with you guys. I'm just not sure which quote I want to share. But just so you know, he added, she's always been your Shannon. Not just Johnny and Shannon's relationship, it's Gibbsy and Johnny's friendship, and the fact that Gibbsy 100% always calls Johnny out on his shit, but is also willing to back down when Johnny tells him to. It's so good, and you get to know the characters so, like, you start to love them so much that you could read a 5-book series just about them from these perspectives. But then knowing that you get 2 books about Joey and Aoife and the next 2 books after these, it's like, I'm not even done. And I love them so much. I'm scared to let them go. I'm pretty sure I'm avoiding reading Keeping 13 because I know Johnny and Shannon's story will be done at that point, and I don't want it to end. I bought the most beautiful edition of Keeping 13. So pretty. I need every book in this edition. I need to go to Barnes & Noble today. Listen, I was there like a couple times ago and I decided to be good and I didn't buy the pretty edition of Binding 13, and then when I went back they only had the pretty version of Keeping 13. Now I've just decided that I'm gonna buy the pretty versions as soon as I see them because I asked about it and they said that they don't know if they're getting a reprint of the pretty version of Binding 13 in stock at my store. It's in stock at Denver West, and you know what that means? It means I'm gonna go buy it right now. And by right now I mean after I'm done filming this video, but I'll put the footage of me going to buy the book as soon as possible because I need it. Thanks, you too. Every copy I've seen of these is damaged, but I have it now, and that's what matters. Anyway, back to the video. It took me completely by surprise. I was not expecting that to be the case at all. So I highly recommend just check your trigger warnings and be kind to your mind when you read. Moving on from Binding 13. After I finished Binding 13, I was about to go on vacation. And although I could have just jumped into Keeping 13, I did not want to be sad on vacation at the beach. So I decided to pivot. I made a vacation TBR. You can go watch that video. And I decided to pick up Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I was not expecting a lot from this book. In fact, I started this book and it felt very much like Twisted Love, and I had really low expectations for that reason. I wasn't expecting good writing. I wasn't expecting full characters. I was not expecting a lovely scene. The bar was on the floor. I was completely taken by surprise. I loved this book. There's so many tabs in there. This book was so good. Okay, the book starts and you're in Rosie's perspective. Rosie is at her job and runs into this sleazebag and says that she's going to report the sleazebag. Rosie loses her job and has a prompt mental health crisis, so she runs back to Rose Hill where she grew up. Her brother still lives there. Her brother's best friend still lives there. As she gets there, her brother West checks up on her, makes sure that she's like okay. She's very clearly not, but West doesn't push it. West's best friend Ford is also there. They all grew up together. Rosie is under the impression that Ford is the perfect frenemy. That's been their relationship their entire young adult life. It's how they've come to know each other. It's like this like begrudging care. Then you jump into Ford's perspective and you realize that Ford has in fact been in love with Rosie the whole time. The whole time. Ford has made quite the name for himself. He is prolifically known as the world's hottest billionaire at this current moment. He's rich, he's nice, he's the world's hottest billionaire. And Rosie's like, wow, that's pretentious and terrible. Don't you feel awful about this stupid title you're carrying around? The banter is bantering. I did not know I was a small town romance kind of girl. Not only that, but the world's hottest billionaire has a daughter that just shows up. She's 12 and she just kind of shows up. Not only is she 12, she's a badass. She's so funny. I love Cora's character. Rosie is fresh off a job loss, needs a job, and Mr. Billionaire here is starting a recording studio in Rose Hill. So Rosie's like, hey, you should hire me. And Ford, of course, cannot resist, so he does. So you watch Rosie antagonize Ford day and night, and he's just doing his best to resist falling in love with her and doing a terrible job. And then it finally clicks for Rosie at some point that, maybe we weren't frenemies the whole time. Maybe he actually cared for me the whole time. And you start to see all of these memories from their past where he was looking out for her all of the time. And it's just so sweet, so beautiful. I'm blushing remembering this. It was so good. I was so taken by surprise. This would be a 5-star if not for the couple of grammatical errors that I just could not ignore, but 4.9, like 4.99, it is close. I loved this book. I read this basically in 2 days. I started it right before I left for vacation, finished it on vacation, and then promptly bought the second book. Yes, you should read it. I read it in like 3 days. I loved it. This moment. Our eyes catch and something passes between us. Understanding, agreement. We both know this is perfect. Him, me, us. Nothing has ever felt more right. It's so sweet. And the relationship that Ford and Cora build out of nowhere because they're so similar but yet so different. Lovely and perfect. I didn't know that I was small town single dad romance kind of girl. I do now. Throw me another one. I will probably love it. This was great. So close to 5 stars. And a perfect vacation read. Even though I was on the beach, I was reading about this cute little Canadian small town and I was loving it. Highly recommend. Yes, you should read it. So one thing about me is that I'm gonna find a bookstore if I need to find a bookstore. On my way out, I stopped at the Tattered Cover in the airport, didn't buy a book there. That was a very strong self-control moment for me, and it's a good thing because later when I finished Wild Love, I went to the bookstore, the 2-level Barnes & Noble in the Spectrum Center, and I bought Wild Eyes. Thank God too, because I am not sure if I can choose a favorite between Wild Love and Wild Eyes. They're both so good. Wild Eyes shifts to Rosie's brother, Weston Belmont. Weston Belmont. This man is so fine. Both of them, there's something in the water at Rose Hill. Something is making these men just phenomenal, beautiful, lovely, everything that you could want in a man, basically. Super tabbed. Wild Eyes. This book starts with a meet cute. Weston, or West as he is affectionately known, is going home on this beautiful day, and then he sees a tourist trying to make friends with a grizzly bear. A grizzly bear on the side of the road. Her Tesla is parked on the side of the road, and she is trying to make friends with a grizzly bear and trying to film the whole experience. He stops his car because he has a human bone in his body and says, hey, you should stop that. And this girl turns around and he immediately recognizes her as Skylar Stone, who is a country artist that he happens to love. He is perhaps Skylar Stone's biggest fan. He decides not to freak out because, hey, there's a grizzly bear right there. So he prioritizes, I don't know, saving her life. After saving her life, Skylar says that she's trying to get to Rose Hill Records so that she can work with Ford Grant to make an album. West has this front that he doesn't know who she is the whole time. He's not treating her any different. He's making sure that she's just a person, but he's getting this very distinct impression that she's like a spooked horse. Like she is 2 seconds from bolting. She's very unstable and he just wants to make sure that she's okay. So they go to Rose Hill. Obviously Skylar stays in Rose Hill. You start to learn that she has been mistreated by her managers, her parents, kind of everybody for her entire life, and she's starting to find out who she is. West just kind of goes about his day-to-day. He is a single dad to 2 beautiful little children, one of which is a little boy who has selective mutism. The other one is a firecracker of a little girl. West shows this family dynamic of love and compassion that Skylar is just completely unfamiliar with. It's a very beautiful journey of healing for Skylar. Not only that, but a lesson in vulnerability for West. And at the same time, it's also bantery, not as intense as Wild Love, but a little bit of banter, single dad trope, little celebrity breakdown moment, incredibly heartwarming, and like beautiful, beautiful family dynamics in both of these books, but especially Wild Eyes, and especially with the way that West parents his children. There, of course, are conflicts in this book, but nothing goes desperately wrong. And because of that, they're very safe, heartwarming reads. Same exact rating as Wild Love. So good. This close to 5 stars. This close to 5 stars. But there were also some grammatical errors in here that I just could not look past. 2 days. I read this in 2 days. You can tell because it still looks brand new. I finished this, not the night I got back from California, but the next day. I read both of these in 5 days. I would definitely recommend that you pick them up. I also bought Wild Side, which is Tabitha and Reese's book. The only thing you know about Tabby and Reese at the beginning of this book is that they hate each other. You also learn in Wild Eyes that they are going to marry each other, and none of that makes sense. So I know that this is going to be very, very interesting. I'm using my Labubu. Look at him. He's so cute. I'm so excited to read this, but I'm also wondering if I should save it for vacation again. These were perfect vacation-y reads. I was also reading Wild Love on the beach. It was just perfect. Being out there in the sun with my really good book that's making me like kick my feet and giggle and have such a good time. So I'm wondering if I should save this one. There's also another book in this series coming out in September 9th of 2025 called Wild Card. Wild Card focuses on Sebastian, which the only thing I know about Bash so far is that he's on the bowling league with West, Ford, and Reese. So I guess we're just working through all of these bowlers. But that's in September. Should I save this for vacation at the end of July, or will I need to read it before then? I don't know. Are you serious? Like, these are so pretty. They're so pretty, and I love Rose Hill, and this has definitely convinced me to read Chestnut Springs and Ruby Creek. I have this like leaning tower of books that's actually kind of terrifying me. I got too excited about Rose Hill, and I completely skipped a book. After Binding 13, before I read Wild Love, I read One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune, which I also knew was going to be a really good book because I have not read a Carly Fortune that I didn't like. As we will recall, I started this video with a Carly Fortune book that I reread and loved. The first thing I love about this book is the aesthetic of the cover. All of her books look like that, and they are all so gorgeous. One Golden Summer is about Alice Everly, and her journey back to the lake at Barry's Bay, because hello, we love Barry's Bay. Alice Everly is a photographer, and she's kind of losing passion in her job because it's a creative field. It's very easy to make your art into what other people want it to be so that you can land a deal, so that you can XYZ. In that, you start to lose your own expression. And Alice Everly is definitely at that place with her work. So when her nan breaks her hip from a fall, Alice decides that she's going to take them both to Barry's Bay for some R&R, if you will. They go to this cottage that is owned by a friend of Nan's and maintained by one Charlie Florek. Now, if you've read Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, you will know the Florek brothers. Charlie is the town flirt. He gets around and everybody knows it. He's taking care of the cottage. Charlie is Alice's contact for any of her needs while at the cottage. Immediately, right off, he's a flirt. Like, you get introduced to Charlie and he's flirting with Alice. He's silly and he's fun, and Alice is like, what is with this guy? They start to spend more time together. Alice begrudgingly, Charlie excitedly. Charlie and her are getting closer over the summer. Meanwhile, something's happening with Charlie that he's not really talking about. This book I rated at 4 stars, but I think that is going to change because when is it ever the same? This book was so endearing and sweet. Obviously, there's a bunch of tabs in there. I have not read a Carly Fortune that was less than 5 stars, and I think this one felt like 4 stars because I didn't have the knowledge from Every Summer After. Now that I have that knowledge, she's like a 4.75. I have such a beautiful image of what Barry's Bay Bay must look like, which is a real place, by the way. These boys, well, these men, really. The banana boat. I just have such fond feelings for these characters and Barry's Bay as a whole. I do think this is a 4.75. This book has a lot to say about love as we grow, but also aging in general, because you see how Alice is aging from that one summer at the lake when she was 17. You see how Charlie has changed from that time. He tells you more of his backstory, so we see his growth. This book was really, really good, and I honestly think if I reread it, having now read Every Summer After, it may be a 5-star. And that excites me. It was a little slower than her other books in my opinion, but it was still very good. Rounding out to the very last book I read in June, which I finished on June 30th. I did a reading sprint to finish this book before the end of June. I will post that soon. This book ripped me apart and I loved it. And that book is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. It has the same beautiful aesthetic. I got this book through Libby. I was not planning on reading this book, but my hold on it came up and it was ready for me. So I started to read it. It went really quickly, like far too quickly, I feel. I think it's approximately that size, so it's not gonna be more than like 300 pages. 350, whatever. Immediately, tears are welling in my eyes. Is Dual Timeline. One Golden Summer is not Dual Timeline. It hurt me so badly. This book is about Sam Florek and Persephone. Those are characters that you get introduced to in One Golden Summer. Obviously, Sam Florek is Charlie's brother. This was the first book she ever wrote. I have never cried to a Carly Fortune book before this book, and I was crying, like big, rolling tears. It hurt me so badly. Because I read One Golden Summer first, I knew one of the big things that happened. Like, I knew the big secret. I thought I was gonna be fine because I knew. I heard it from this man's mouth. No, I did not know the other half of what happened at that moment. And painful to read. I had 30% left when I started my reading sprint for this book. It took me an hour and a half to finish. Like I said, you follow Sam Florek and Persephone. The story starts with Persephone. She has very supportive parents. She's an only child and she has little to no friends her age right now because there was a bit of a falling out with the friends that she had. So her parents decide that it would be a good idea to summer away and they buy this cottage in Barry's Bay. Persephone's looking forward to more time to write because she writes stories, but she also gets introduced to the Florek boys really early on. Sam and Charlie Florek have lived on the lake their entire lives. Charlie, as we learned in One Golden Summer, gets around. In Every Summer After, we are seeing the heyday of him getting around. New girl every week. He's not around so much because he's out with other women, right? Sam, however, is a constant in Persephone's summer life. They become fast friends. They're best friends right away. They share their interests. They grow together. They email when she's not at the cottage and they just continue to get closer and closer. They build this relationship together and they get so much closer and they're the best of friends and they decide to try this relationship, but it gets kind of rocky when they go off to college. What happens after that in the months, in the summers, is so heartbreaking. The book starts with Persephone getting a phone call from Charlie, which is really out of left field, and he's inviting her back to Barry's Bay because their mother has passed away. Persephone hasn't been in Barry's Bay or spoken to either of the Florek brothers for 12 years. We get this picture painted of all of these summers that came before, and Persephone's relationship with Sam, and how they got so much closer, and how they grew together from 15 to 18, 19 as they went off to college, and how things kind of fizzled out when they went to college and why they haven't spoken in 12 years. There's a trope in here that I personally despise. Like, sometimes we'll not even pick up a book if it has this trope. And I was okay reading this because it was set so perfectly in these characters' lives. Like, that sounds kind of weird, but it made so much sense for where the story was and where these characters were that I was so upset and so infuriated, but I was willing to see the story through, and I'm so glad that I did because it's legitimately also one of the best books I've read all year. That is the third time I've said that this video, but I literally have full body goosebumps talking about this book. It was so heartbreaking and so painful to read, but I'm so glad that I did. And knowing that this is her debut novel is actually insane. I've now read 3 of her books, 3 out of 4, I think, with another one coming soon. There's not been a single story that I have not liked from her. I am so glad to have read this book. It hurt me bad, but I love feeling that hurt. It's the type of hurt that reminds you that you're human and that you love reading and that you have a heart, and like, it's just so good. And I think you should read it. I think you should read everything she's written. In fact, I do think that would be a good vacation read as well. This absolutely was 5 stars. I don't think anybody had to guess about that. And like I said, now that I have the backstory on Sam and Persephone and Charlie, I think if I reread One Golden Summer, that would also be a 5 stars as opposed to the 4.75 it's sitting at now. But I loved these books so much. I'm so happy. I feel like I always read my best books at the end of the month, so they're always at the end of the video, and my videos always start so negative. I'm sorry about that. I just tend to read some really bad books at the beginning of months. I don't know what it is. So many good books. I completely skipped over an audiobook. I'll talk about it really quickly because we're basically at the end of the video and I'm running out of storage. The Honeymoon Crashers by Christina Lauren. It was an audiobook with a full cast, super fun. It's like a 1.5, Unhoneymooners 1.5. Amy is planning a honeymoon for Olive, her sister, her twin sister, is the main character in the Unhoneymooners. It's a really short audiobook. I listened to this in I think it was 3 hours, and it really focuses on sisterly love, which is so special to me because I have a lot of sisters that I love really dearly. Amy and Brody, who is Ethan's best man, have to work together to plan this honeymoon / wedding ceremony for Olive and Ethan. It's definitely very forced proximity, falling for each other in the process. Obviously at this point, Amy is very jaded because she just got married and just got divorced. Long story there, read The Unhoneymooners if you want to know. She's very jaded and Brody just reminds her that life is supposed to be fun and it's okay to pretend that no one's watching and just enjoy life. Super sweet little audiobook. I have no idea if it's published as a novella or if it's audiobook exclusive, but it was so much fun to read and I definitely would recommend that one for a quick little audiobook, maybe on a plane or on a road trip or on a vacation. But that's all the books we talked about, including the ones I haven't read yet, because Keeping 13 and Wildside are in this stack of massive books. I can't even see the bottom. That is it for the wrap up. That's all the books that I read in May and June. Incredible books, incredibly good books. So many 5 stars or very near 5 stars. I can't even be mad. It was so good. Such a good reading month this last month. May was pretty good too. Hopefuls for next month, definitely Wildside. Obviously we talked about that. Keeping 13, definitely. I don't know what I'm gonna read next. I do have my vacation TBR video out. So I'll likely be reading a lot from those books. I only have the one vacation left and I'm only out in Florida for a week, so I have a lot of work to do there. But I don't know what I'm gonna read in these couple of weeks leading up to Florida. Subscribe to see my next wrap up when it comes out. Tell me what books you're reading for summer, especially if they're single dad, small town romance coded, I guess, or maybe a sports romance, because I love that too. Give me your best recommendations for what you're reading this summer, because I am loving everything that I've been recommended on the internet so far. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, tell me what you're reading this summer, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!